Why are Ole Miss fans upset at Auburn and Hugh Freeze? We're going to talk about that right now on this edition of Good Morning Auburn. War Eagle to you, our Auburn family, and our E2C Network family. This is another edition of E2C Network Live and Good Morning Auburn, where we get together and we sit down and we talk about something in the Auburn family spectrum. Always heavy on the sports here on this channel. If it's orange and blue, it is what we do, though. And thank you for joining us, whether you're watching live, whether you're watching on the replay. We appreciate you being here, hanging out with us, spending some time talking about something in that Auburn family spectrum. You can do a couple things for us as we get started on our stream today. First off, we'd love for you to start off by posting where you're watching from, our check-in period, your city, your state, international. I know it seems redundant to a lot of you these days that have been here for a while, but it is a humongous help to let me know, first of all, who's here watching live or on the replay, but also to help people know to come on into the chat and watch what we've got going on here today. And you could also help me out by together in unison smashing the like button. It does also help the stream out. So that is a huge help if you could do that and you enjoy this type of content. As we've been doing for a little while, Good Morning Auburn is all about little short form live stream discussions, mainly me giving you some information and opinions on a topic, but also hearing what you have to say about what we're discussing here. So as you're watching today in the chat and as you're checking in, please do let me know what you think about that. And we'll talk through some of your opinions about this topic too. We got Tyrone already checking in. Thanks, buddy, for being here this morning. I know it's an early morning for a lot of you, and most of you probably watch this on the replay, but we put this content out for you to get your day started with something Auburn. So is Ole Miss mad at Auburn? It depends on your perspective. If you look at the message boards, everybody is mad at everybody. It doesn't matter if it's Ole Miss to Auburn. It doesn't matter if it's Republicans versus Democrats. Everybody's mad at everybody. So that is somewhat of a rhetorical question here, a redundant question. Is Ole Miss? We're always all mad at each other. But what we're really getting at here is stories that were breaking yesterday about how much the anger, more beyond just a fan of the typical Ole Miss fan base being mad at a rival from the SEC West. No, there's truly, especially if you look at social media message boards, a anger that has arisen among them, directed in the way of Auburn, directed in the way of Hugh Freeze, but more so, I think it's more deep-seated than that. And we're going to discuss a little bit why. And obviously, most of this stems with stuff related to Hugh Freeze because of what's going on now at Auburn and everything else. And it's a great point, Neil. First, maybe this is what this show is going to become. Who's mad at Auburn today instead of Good Morning Auburn? You had Bert, or Brett Belima. I think I got it right that time, who was mad last week with Auburn stealing a commit from them, a transfer for them, and now this one as well. BT, good to see you, man. Thanks for being here and watching the show today. So let me start off with this. I think it goes beyond Hugh Freeze, and we'll obviously get to that. But I think it really does start with a feeling by Ole Miss fans that they are, how do I say this without sounding arrogant? I was going to say inferior, but they're not. It's not that they're inferior. It's the two programs are completely different, right? Because like I said, at the heart of this is about Hugh Freeze and what the success that we are having versus they are not right now in the whole Lane Kiffin situation, which is why he's in the thumbnail for this image for this live stream. But the really big thing, excuse me about that this morning, getting a little stopped up. The big thing about this morning is a discussion of who the hierarchy of the SEC in the SEC West. Ole Miss fans have wanted to be more prominent, more special, more on the level of someone up closer to Alabama, and it's just not happening for them. Now, we talked with Jason Alvarez. He does, he's on social media, but I believe he has his own Ole Miss podcast, or at least he shows up on a lot of people's podcasts. He showed up on ours this YouTube channel this season to preview the Ole Miss game. And we talked a lot about this topic, about how most Ole Miss fans understand that when you compare Auburn versus Ole Miss, even on a down year, there is no comparison. Auburn is the better job. Now, there are times where they've gotten a little bit closer. I think, this past season could be one of those to making that case, but it goes beyond that. So when we ask the question, why is Ole Miss right now mad at Auburn? It goes back to things beyond that. There are issues of, it sounds arrogant when I say this, but inferiority. But yeah. Bielema, did not say it. Bielema? I thought I said it right. Ole Miss fans are still mad at Auburn for so if you really want to ask that question, it goes back to Tommy Tuberville. But specifically about this. So think about this. So if you come into this question, if you come into this world as an Ole Miss fan, and you, even if you won't admit it, understand that your program, your football history isn't as good as Auburn's, you really can't stand to lose to them. And then you've got all these connections going back even beyond that, I'm sure. But Tommy Tuberville is a big one there. And now we've got this Hugh Freeze thing. And it goes beyond that, just having Hugh Freeze be here. It goes to this Lane Kiffin situation. It goes to recruiting. So let's take a little bit of a deep dive into some of that right now. So this goes back to Lane Kiffin, first of all. We all know what happened this offseason with Auburn's coaching search, right? Lane Kiffin, we all thought he was coming to Auburn. We thought it was just a bunch of games that were happening, that he was going to end up signing a contract with Auburn, moving on from Ole Miss. So there was already that little seed of doubt, that little seed, of why is this guy, why do we keep having this happen to us? Why does Auburn keep coming and poaching our people? And Lane Kiffin this year, to start off the season, they were having a great year. They were in conversation of whether they should be considered one of the best of the SEC. I mean, there was a small period there where Alabama was kind of struggling to the degree that Alabama can struggle. And everybody else, LSU hadn't risen up to the level they were going to yet and kind of seize control of the West. But it finally happened that Ole Miss found themselves in the driver's seat this year, and it looked like the Lane train had kind of switched into high gears. And so then once again, when you've reached that point, somebody comes for your coach, and you kind of you're dealing with that reality that you're historically a stopping place for people. Auburn traditionally is not a I guess I should have said that, is a point, not a stopping place. Auburn is a stopping place where people usually don't leave from here to go somewhere else. Usually they get told to leave. So there's that whole thing, how that all went down, them having to go through the issue of, do we want this guy? We don't want him. You can have him, all those things, but then realizing that they probably couldn't get any much better. And so there was that whole dynamic this offseason, which was really fun to watch. It's frustrating for us too, to watch the antics from Ole Miss. I can say now that it seems like we got, for now, the better end of the deal. So there's that element of it. The whole thing with the Lane Kiffin sweepstakes. But then you've also got, added on top of this, who Auburn goes and gets as their head coach, the former Ole Miss head coach, Hugh Freeze, who they probably had. I don't know my Ole Miss history as well as I probably should. If you guys have any opinions about that, let me know. But I would say, tell me if this is too far of a step out, that he would be at least in their top 3. He's one of the best coaches that they've had in terms of sustained success. I don't know. Maybe that's a bit of a step out there. So, yeah. I think when you add that on top of that, we were trying to steal their coach, but then we actually go out and get the one that they let go for good reasons, mind you. I mean, this not a discussion of should Ole Miss have let Hugh Freeze go, but it is a discussion of like, hey, we're still poaching from you, technically. Leanne asked the question, has anyone left us, Auburn, except John Heisman? Certainly it was before Shug. Yeah, that is a good question. I mean, Shug, I think, didn't he leave us for a time, like the early part, and come back? And I think the same could be, I think Mike Donahue left us because he had time at LSU, or maybe he came from LSU first. But yeah, I mean, most of those were back in the day. It hasn't been of recent history where they somebody has we've always been a stopping place, not a stopping point for coaches. So that is that. So that's kind of what this is stemming from. You've seen a lot of anger and hate. There's one more element to this that I'm going to give you, but message boards, there's people saying release the NDA, the non-disclosure agreement, because they're upset because the success that's already seeming to be had by Auburn with Hugh Freeze at the helm, while their guy, who was touted as this great recruiter, this guy, this great offensive mind, and they faltered the way they did this season and just kind of fell over on themselves, had to scramble and crawl and beg and plead to keep not beg and plead, that's a little bit much, but to keep the guy, to get him to sign on for another year. So there's that element. But then this whole recruiting thing. And listen, recruiting, transfer portal, this is all perception stuff. Right now, Auburn is killing it perception-wise, right? We're in the rankings, all that stuff, but that's all they are, is rankings. We'll really know how good all of this was when we get out in the field. But perception-wise, Auburn has done what it needs to do and won. The perception is that Lane Kiffin was the transfer portal king. Saw them do it last year, Jackson Dart, many other players that they brought in. And this year, a lot of people thought that would happen again. Here's my little hint to Ole Miss fans. You're kind of doing something some of us Auburn fans have done, is you're forgetting that you can't bring in the amount of players, and sometimes there's a discussion of quality of players, every single year that you do the year before. And so there's this perception that, well, the guy that we kept didn't do exactly what he did last year, so it was a failure. But it is hard to watch when you talk about the whole way we've set this up. The team that came after your coach instead went and got your former coach that you had success with, who previously has stolen a coach from you, who is a program that you can't just seem to break ahead of on a consistent level. Yes, on a year-by-year basis, maybe you have a better year than them. Who isn't having a better year in the SEC than Auburn? Vanderbilt? Big whoop. Texas A&M is not. That's another element to that. But that's the big thing. The big question is, how do you deal with that as an Ole Miss fan? The recruiting thing, I think, was the final nail in the coffin. So on message boards, they've been post the NDA from his Hugh Freeze's issues at Ole Miss. Obviously, that's not going to happen. I don't think know if there's an NDA. Maybe there is. Ole Miss fans can enlighten me on that if they watch this and if they get a little bit upset with that. But my message to Ole Miss fans, chill. It seems like you got a great coach in Lane Kiffin. He's a bit of a bird, a bit of a character. You won that battle. Sit back and let it figure itself out and let the chips fall where they may. Who knows? Auburn and Hugh Freeze may not work out. My hope is it sure does. But we still got to go out there in the field and win the game, because right now we've won the perception battle. The question is, though, which one of us is going to have the longer term sustainable success? And here's the other thing that we're not talking about for Ole Miss fans. They've survived the one grab of their coach in Lane Kiffin from Auburn, but a lot of people out there think he's vying for that Alabama job once Nick Saban leaves. So there's that fear as well out there. So kind of wrapping back the points that I've made here. You've got Ole Miss fans going on message boards, just going ballistic in social media about how Auburn is just annoying the crap out of them, how they're hating seeing the success that we're having. And now you've got them posting things like posting the NDA, all the stuff that, the non-disclosure stuff from Hugh Freeze's time at Auburn. Which, let me just say this, first of all. If you do got stuff out there that needs to be said, like that needs to be addressed, don't hold it back, because, that's an important issue. But to me, that's just being petty, and that's not being a good person. But but the point is, dealing with a time of inferiority towards Auburn, or at least some sort of a feeling about that, watching us try to steal their coach again, and watching us have this recruiting success has been very difficult to swallow for Ole Miss fans who had a great season until the last part and watch that kind of falter. It's really been this ride of kind of like, oh, we're here, and here's a big dip, come back up one more time, and then go back down. That's really what it's been about for Ole Miss fans this season thus far. Okay, so what I'd like to do from here is normally how we kind of start wrapping up our show. Would love to hear any thoughts and opinions that you have about this or anything related to this. Continue to post that in the comments section down below. Let me give you a reminder of what to expect here for E2C Network live, but E2C Network in general coming up today or tomorrow in the next couple of days. Next planned live stream will be another Good Morning Auburn show tomorrow at 8:30. Probably be talking something related to the transfer portal unless some other big news happens or something like that. So don't miss that if you're a recruiting transfer portal fan. I'll be talking a little bit about that most likely. Also, tomorrow night at 8 p.m., we are planning a live stream with Clint Richardson of the Auburn Uniform Database to talk about the green jerseys that Auburn used to wear. He's posted an article today about that. A bit of a spoiler alert for you. And then we will be discussing that with him. So don't miss. If you want to talk about Auburn green jerseys, don't miss that. And Wednesday night, we're not going to have our regularly scheduled Auburn family live stream, but we will do a post-game live stream right after the basketball game. As always, check out your links in the description for ways that you can help support our content. You want to be subscribed so you can be part of that giveaway, channel membership, booster club. There's also PayPal, other things in the description if you want to help support us financially for as little as $1 a month. There's some of those other things. Check those out if you can. They are huge helps. But the biggest thing you can do for us is smash the like button if you enjoy this type of content. All right, I'll look over here and see if we've got any other final comments in the discussion of who's left Auburn. Talking about Shug, he left us to serve in World War II. He served in Africa, Europe, and Pacific. So that was about our discussion about no one's left Auburn since back in the olden days. And that's my understanding is true. Clint's a great history buff too, so he would be someone to clarify with all that if there's anybody else that left us. But if you think back to, so let's kind of walk through it. Brian Harsin, fired. Malzahn, fired. Chiswick, fired. Tuberville, fired. Bowden, fired. Pat Dye resigned. Going beyond that, was it Bill Olive? I can't even remember who it was before that. Between Shug retired. So yeah, it's back to the 60s and 50s for all of that stuff. Ole Miss fans are going nuts right now. They really are, Scott, and it's kind of funny to watch, which is why the whole point of we did this one today, just because it is directed at Auburn. It's somewhat about them, this discussion today, but that's why. All right, I'll take this question real quick, even though it's not related. How many scholarship quarterbacks does a school usually have on scholarship? I don't know the official number for that, but that would be traditionally. Well, I shouldn't say traditionally because I don't know the number, but it seems like 6 would be 5 to 6 would be the magic number. Doug Barfield was fired. Thank you. So all of that kind of goes back to this. Is Ole Miss mad at Auburn? Seems like they always are because we're doing something to make them a little bit mad, but but yeah, we'll continue to be the bane of their existence, and hopefully this will only build our rivalry while Hugh Freeze and Lane Kiffin are coaching at these respective schools. It'll be fun to watch how this gets even more interesting between Auburn and Ole Miss fans. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today to Good Morning Auburn, and we'll be doing another one tomorrow at 8:30. Hope to see you then. Till I talk to you again, though, you guys have a great day, and War Eagle.